The manila folder slid across my desk like a death sentence. 24 years of dedication to Horizon Dynamics. And my termination was delivered with clinical precision 6 months before my pension would fully vest. But what Thomas Montgomery, our calculating CFO, didn't realize was that I'd been gathering evidence of his financial misdeeds for years. I wasn't just going to walk away, I was going to burn his golden parachute to ashes. My name is Diana Blackwood. And this is how I took down the man who thought he could discard me like yesterday's financial report. I still remember my first day at Horizon Dynamics. It was 1999, and I was fresh out of business school with an accounting degree and ambition burning in my veins. The company was expanding their financial department, and I was eager to prove myself. Back then, Thomas Montgomery was just another mid-level manager, though his ambition was evident even then. We started in similar positions, though he always seemed to know which executives to charm at company functions. Over the years, I built my reputation as meticulous and reliable. I wasn't flashy, didn't play politics, just did solid work, and gradually moved up to senior financial analyst. I managed audits, financial projections, and compliance reporting. My performance reviews were consistently excellent. When the 2008 financial crisis hit, I was part of the team that helped Horizon weather the storm through careful financial planning. Meanwhile, Thomas climbed the corporate ladder with remarkable speed. By 2015, he was CFO, strutting through the office in his tailored suits, dispensing smiles to executives and cold glances to the rest of us. I reported to him indirectly, through Melissa Gardner, the Director of Financial Operations. "Diana, you're the backbone of this department," Melissa would tell me. "I don't know what we'd do without your institutional knowledge." That institutional knowledge became both my greatest asset and, ultimately, Thomas's downfall. The first sign of trouble came in 2018. I noticed discrepancies in our quarterly reports, nothing major, just numbers that didn't quite align with our internal tracking. When I brought it to Melissa's attention, she brushed it off. "Thomas wants us to present the most optimistic projections to the board," she explained. "It's just massaging the data a little." But my accounting ethics wouldn't let me ignore it. I started keeping separate records, documenting the discrepancies, initially just to ensure my own work remained accurate. I had no idea then that I was building the foundation of my revenge. The real trouble began in 2022. Our company had been acquired by a larger corporation, Sterling Enterprises, and the new management was pushing for aggressive growth. Thomas became their golden boy, promising to streamline operations and increase profitability. What that really meant was cutting corners and eliminating redundancies, a corporate euphemism for firing long-term employees. I watched as colleagues who had been with the company for decades were escorted out, carrying boxes of personal belongings. Each time, Thomas would send a company-wide email thanking them for their service while emphasizing our exciting new direction. The subtext was clear: adapt or be replaced. That's when I started noticing larger irregularities, revenue projections that seemed wildly optimistic, expenses that disappeared from one report only to be redistributed elsewhere. And most concerning, a pattern of financial transfers to subsidiary accounts that didn't seem to serve any legitimate business purpose. I began investigating quietly. Working late after everyone had gone home, I would access financial records, taking screenshots, downloading spreadsheets, and documenting everything. I wasn't sure what I was looking at initially, but my years of experience told me something wasn't right. By early 2023, I'd compiled enough evidence to suspect Thomas was manipulating financial data to inflate performance metrics that were directly tied to his substantial bonus package. He was also funneling company resources through a complex web of transactions that ultimately benefited a handful of shell companies. I considered reporting my findings, but hesitated. Sterling Enterprises had brought in their own people at the executive level, and I wasn't sure who I could trust. Thomas had the ear of the CEO, and whistleblowers don't always fare well, especially those nearing retirement age. So I continued my clandestine investigation, building a comprehensive file. I created an encrypted email account and sent copies of my evidence to myself, as well as storing backups on an external drive I kept at home. If nothing else, I thought, this might provide me with some leverage if my position ever came under threat. The threat materialized sooner than I expected. In September 2023, Thomas announced a departmental restructuring that would eliminate several positions. The official reason was efficiency. But the pattern was clear. Most of the affected employees were over 50 and had been with the company for at least 15 years. People with significant pension benefits on the horizon. During a department meeting, Thomas outlined the changes with a PowerPoint presentation full of corporate buzzwords: synergy, agility, future-focused workforce. His eyes met mine briefly, and I saw something there. A calculation. An assessment. I knew then that my days were numbered. Sure enough, 2 weeks later, Melissa called me into her office. Her expression told me everything before she spoke a word. "Diana, I'm so sorry," she began, not quite meeting my eyes. "Your position is being eliminated in the restructuring. My position, I'm the only one who fully understands our legacy financial systems." I pointed out, "Who's going to manage the quarterly compliance reporting?" Melissa shifted uncomfortably. "Thomas has hired a consultant to transition your responsibilities to our new integrated system. They'll want to meet with you to document your processes before your departure date." "And when is that?" I asked, my voice steady despite the anger rising in my chest. 2 weeks from today. You'll receive the standard severance package, of course. 2 weeks. After 24 years, 6 months before my pension would fully vest. I maintained my composure through the rest of the meeting, nodding as Melissa explained the details of my severance, which was pitiful compared to what my pension would have provided. I signed the papers she put in front of me, already formulating my plan. That evening, I sat at my kitchen table with a glass of wine, reviewing the evidence I'd gathered. I now understood with perfect clarity what Thomas had been doing. He wasn't just manipulating data for his bonus. He was systematically eliminating employees before their pensions vested, saving the company millions while showing Sterling Enterprises how effectively he could cut costs. But there was more. The suspicious transfers I'd tracked led to 3 shell companies: Oceanic Ventures, Pinnacle Holdings, and Westward Investments. Through careful analysis, I discovered these companies were linked to a real estate development in Costa Rica, a luxury resort where, coincidentally, Thomas had mentioned vacationing multiple times. Further digging revealed that Thomas was a silent partner in this development, and he had been diverting Horizon funds to support it, disguising the transactions as legitimate business expenses or consultant fees. It was embezzlement, carefully concealed but unmistakable once you saw the pattern. I took a sip of wine and smiled for the first time since receiving my termination notice. Thomas had made a critical error. He'd underestimated the redundant employee who had spent years observing his financial machinations. The next 2 weeks were a masterclass in professional duplicity. By day, I dutifully documented my processes for the young consultant, Rachel, who would take over some of my responsibilities. "You're so organized," Rachel commented, clearly impressed by my detailed records. "Most people wouldn't make this so easy for their replacement." I smiled. "I believe in leaving things better than I found them." By night, I refined my evidence against Thomas, organizing it into a clear, compelling narrative of financial fraud and corporate malfeasance. I consulted with an attorney, not the company's law firm, but a scrappy employment lawyer named Judith Martinez, who specialized in corporate whistleblower cases. "This is substantial," Judith said, reviewing my files. "But timing will be crucial. Are you prepared for the fallout? This could get messy." "I've given 24 years to this company," I replied. "I was planning to retire in 6 months. Instead, I'm being pushed out to save them my pension costs. I've got nothing to lose." Judith nodded, understanding perfectly. "Then let's make sure you don't go quietly." We developed a multi-pronged approach. First, we would file a formal complaint with the SEC, detailing Thomas's financial manipulation and embezzlement. Second, we would notify the board of directors and Sterling Enterprises CEO directly. providing enough evidence to demand an investigation. Third, and this was my personal touch, we would ensure the financial press received anonymous tips about potential irregularities at Horizon Dynamics. My last day arrived. There was a small gathering in the break room, a few cupcakes, a card signed by those colleagues who remained, and awkward well wishes from people who were relieved it wasn't them being shown the door. Thomas didn't attend, of course. He was in meetings with Sterling executives all day, probably plotting the next round of restructuring. Melissa gave me a stiff hug. "We'll miss you, Diana. Your contribution to this company has been invaluable." I smiled, holding her gaze a moment longer than was comfortable. "You have no idea." I cleared out my desk, taking only personal items. My evidence was already secured elsewhere. As security escorted me to the exit, a humiliating protocol for someone who had devoted half their life to the company, I took a final look around the office where I had spent so many years. "Everything okay, ma'am?" the security guard asked, noticing my pause. "Yes," I said. "I'm just saying goodbye to an old friend." The next morning, at precisely 9 a.m., our plan went into action. Judith filed our SEC complaint, complete with extensive documentation of Thomas's financial misdeeds. Simultaneously, detailed letters were delivered by courier to each board member and to Sterling's CEO, James Richardson. By noon, financial blogs were buzzing with rumors about accounting irregularities at Horizon Dynamics. Sterling's stock price dipped slightly as the market responded to the uncertainty. At 2:17 p.m., my phone rang, a number I didn't recognize. "Diana Blackwood," I answered. "Ms. Blackwood, this is James Richardson, CEO of Sterling Enterprises." His voice was tightly controlled, but I could hear the tension. "I've received some concerning documentation regarding our CFO, Thomas Montgomery. I'd like to discuss this with you immediately." "I'm available," I replied calmly. "Would you prefer to meet in person?" By 4 p.m., I was sitting in a conference room at Sterling's headquarters, facing James Richardson, 2 board members, and their general counsel. I had brought Judith with me. "These are serious allegations," Richardson began, his expression grave. "Our initial review suggests there may be substance to them. I want to assure you that we take this extremely seriously." "I would hope so," I replied. "I've provided comprehensive evidence of financial fraud, embezzlement, and what appears to be a systematic effort to deny long-term employees their earned pension benefits." The general counsel leaned forward. "About that, your termination occurred just before your pension would fully vest, correct?" 6 months before, I confirmed. "And I'm not the only one. I've documented 15 similar cases over the past 18 months. Richardson and the board members exchanged glances. The pattern was undeniable. "Ms. Blackwood," Richardson said carefully, "what would you like to see happen here?" It was the question I'd been waiting for. First, a full investigation by an independent auditor. Second, immediate reinstatement of all employees who were terminated within a year of their pension vesting date. Third, my own reinstatement until my pension fully vests, after which I will retire as originally planned. "And if we agree to these terms," the general counsel asked, "then I'll be satisfied that justice has been done," I said simply. My concern has always been the integrity of the company and fair treatment of its employees. The meeting concluded with promises to investigate thoroughly and follow up within days. As Judith and I left the building, she gave me an approving nod. "Well played," she said. "They're scared, and they should be. The SEC doesn't take these matters lightly." "Neither do I," I replied. The following week was a whirlwind. Sterling Enterprises announced that Thomas Montgomery had been placed on administrative leave pending an internal investigation. An independent auditing firm was brought in to review Horizon's financial records. I received daily updates from various executives who suddenly found my institutional knowledge invaluable to their investigation. 10 days after our meeting, Richardson called me personally. "Ms. Blackwood, I'd like to inform you that Thomas Montgomery has resigned. Effective immediately. Our investigation has confirmed the majority of your allegations, and we've referred the matter to the appropriate authorities." "I see," I said. allowing a moment of silence to emphasize the gravity of the situation. And the other matters we discussed? We're prepared to offer reinstatement to all employees terminated within 12 months of their pension vesting date, with back pay and an additional compensation package for the distress caused. He paused. We'd like to offer you a position as special advisor to the transition team, with full benefits, until your pension vests. After that, we hope you might consider consulting for us on a part-time basis. I couldn't help but smile at the irony. I'll consider it, Mr. Richardson. Please have your team send over the details in writing. The news broke publicly the next day. Financial irregularities lead to CFO resignation at Horizon Dynamics, read the headlines. The articles mentioned an internal whistleblower, but didn't name me. Thomas's carefully constructed reputation crumbled as details emerged about his embezzlement scheme and the Costa Rican development that had been partially funded with company resources. I returned to Horizon the following Monday. The atmosphere was charged with nervous energy and speculation. Melissa met me at the elevator, her expression a mix of embarrassment and relief. Diana, I had no idea about any of this, she insisted, walking beside me toward my new office, not my old cubicle, but a proper office with a door and a window. Thomas kept so much of the financial oversight to himself. That's often how fraud works, Melissa, I replied neutrally. People show you what they want you to see. My new role gave me considerable authority in the restructuring process. I took particular satisfaction in helping reinstate the colleagues who had been pushed out before their pensions vested. Many were shocked to receive calls offering their jobs back, with enhanced compensation packages to make amends. As for Thomas, his fall was spectacular. The SEC investigation led to civil charges, and the FBI opened a criminal investigation into the embezzlement scheme. His assets were frozen, including his ownership stake in the Costa Rican development. Last I heard, he was negotiating a plea deal to avoid a lengthy prison sentence. 6 months later, on the day my pension officially vested, I submitted my retirement notice. Sterling Enterprises threw me a genuine retirement party, not the half-hearted farewell I'd received before, but a celebration attended by the CEO himself, who presented me with an award for extraordinary service and integrity. As I looked around at the faces of colleagues who might never have known how close they came to losing their retirement security, I felt a deep satisfaction, not just because I had secured my own future, but because I had protected theirs as well. My revenge wasn't just about taking Thomas down, although I won't deny the pleasure I took in that. It was about justice. It was about showing that corporate greed and callous disregard for loyal employees shouldn't go unchallenged. I did eventually accept Sterling's offer to consult part-time after my retirement. My first recommendation was to establish a robust whistleblower protection program and an ethics hotline managed by an independent third party. They implemented it immediately, sometimes late at night. I wonder if Thomas ever realized his mistake. Not the embezzlement or the fraud. Those were deliberate choices he made. No. His real mistake was assuming that an aging employee with an impeccable record and decades of institutional knowledge was dispensable. He saw my age and decided I was a liability rather than recognizing that I was the one person who could see through his schemes. The CFO's office at Horizon Dynamics has a new occupant now, a woman named Maria Delgado, who made a point of meeting with me before I retired. I want to thank you, she said during our meeting. Not just for exposing the fraud, but for showing that integrity still matters in corporate America. I smiled at her. This younger woman taking on a role of power. Just remember, Maria, every spreadsheet tells a story. Make sure yours is one you can be proud of. Now, as I enjoy my well-earned retirement, pension intact, supplemented by a generous consulting fee, I sometimes raise a glass to Thomas Montgomery, not in forgiveness, but in acknowledgement of an important lesson. Never underestimate a woman with a spreadsheet and a score to settle. Because some of us understand that revenge, like a good financial strategy, is best served methodically, precisely, and with careful attention to detail. And unlike Thomas, I made sure my calculations were flawless.